They thought Earth was a backwater world, primitive, unprepared, and defenseless. But as Admiral Vorax would soon discover, not everything that sleeps lies dormant. Sometimes it waits. Admiral Vorax stood at the observation deck of the Dominion warship Stellar Vanguard, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue marble hanging in space before him. The third planet of this unremarkable solar system looked so primitive, his upper lip curled in what his species considered a smile, revealing rows of pointed teeth that gleamed under the stark lighting of the command bridge. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the distinctive growl of the Zoraxian military elite. Commander Thalix approached with practiced precision, her scaled skin reflecting the holographic display surrounding them. "My Admiral, our fleet of 300 warships stands ready. Initial scans confirm what our advanced probes reported. The humans possess no orbital defense grid, no energy shields, and their spacecraft are limited to their immediate orbital space. They are, as we suspected, completely vulnerable." Vorax nodded slowly, his secondary eyes tracking the movement of Earth's single moon, while his primary pair remained fixed on the planet and their global military capabilities. "Laughable," Admiral Thalix responded, bringing up a detailed hologram of Earth's military bases. "They still use projectile weapons and chemical explosives. Their most advanced aircraft cannot even leave the atmosphere. The most formidable aspect of their civilization appears to be their entertainment industry." A deep rumbling laugh escaped Vorax's throat. 47 conquered worlds, Commander Thalix, and none have been this easy. Almost makes me feel guilty." He paused, watching a satellite drift by, pathetically small compared to their mighty warships. Almost. Behind them, the bridge crew worked with ruthless efficiency, their 6-fingered hands dancing across control panels as they positioned the invasion fleet. The Stellar Vanguard alone was larger than anything humans had ever built, stretching 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull, forged from materials unknown to Earth science, gleamed with an otherworldly purple sheen. "Admiral," called out strategist Malor from his station, "we are detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface." Vorax waved a dismissive hand. "Probably their primitive nuclear reactors. Nothing that could threaten our shields." He straightened his ceremonial armor, its deep crimson color marking him as a veteran of the Orion campaign. "Send the standard ultimatum. Give them 1 planetary rotation to surrender." The message was transmitted in all Earth languages, a courtesy Vorax found unnecessarily generous. He watched the planet rotate below, noting the lights of cities spread across its surface like bioluminescent fungi. Such a waste of potential, he thought. Under Zoraxian rule, this world would finally know true progress. "Sir," Thalix interjected, her voice carrying a note of confusion. "We are receiving their response already." Vorax's secondary eyes blinked in surprise. "That was fast. Perhaps they are more reasonable than we anticipated. Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. Her expression was amused. Surely a translation error. Her words, however, came through crystal clear. "Admiral of the approaching fleet, we have received your ultimatum. The people of Earth have prepared a response, which I have been authorized to deliver. Hey, ha, ha." The transmission cut off. Vorax stood motionless, all 4 eyes wide open. In his 3 centuries of military service, he had never received such a response. Threats? Yes. Pleas for mercy? Certainly. But laughter? "Admiral," Thalix prompted, her scales shifting color slightly with concern. "Your orders?" Vorax's jaw tightened. "Launch the first wave. Let's see how long they maintain their sense of humor when our dropships darken their skies. He turned to face his bridge crew, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. And prepare my personal guard. I want to meet these humans face to face when we breach their primary defense facility. As the invasion fleet began to move, Vorax couldn't shake an unfamiliar sensation creeping up his spine. In all his years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts, and right now, those instincts were screaming that something was wrong, very wrong. But he pushed the feeling aside. After all, what could one primitive planet possibly do against the might of the Zoraxian Empire? He was about to find out. The first wave of Zoraxian dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like metallic meteors, their hulls glowing red with entry heat. Admiral Kroxax watched from the Stellar Vanguard's tactical display as 30 ships approached the human facility designated as their United Nations headquarters. "Deploying diplomatic escort," announced strategist Mailer. "Ground teams report optimal insertion conditions." Commander Thalix's scales rippled with anticipation as she monitored the deployment. "Admiral, the humans are responding exactly as predicted. Their primitive radar systems are tracking our ships, but their defensive measures are limited to scrambling a few aircraft. Maintain passive shields only," Vorax ordered, settling into his command chair. "Let them see our restraint. Perhaps it will make the occupation less messy." The dropships touched down in the large plaza before the United Nations building, their landing struts crushing the decorative fountains and gardens. Steam hissed from their cooling hulls as ramps extended to the ground. Vorax's personal guard, towering warriors in crimson armor, marched out in perfect formation. Through the ground team's feeds, Vorax watched human security forces gather at a safe distance. Their weapons looked like toys compared to Zoraxian plasma rifles. A small group of human diplomats approached, led by a silver-haired woman who showed remarkable composure. "I am Ambassador Admiral Rachel Monroe," she announced clearly. "While we appreciate your desire for diplomatic discourse, landing military vessels in the heart of New York City is hardly a peaceful overture." Vorax's guard captain, Captain Drogar, stepped forward. His translator converted his growling speech into human English. "Your appreciation is irrelevant. Admiral Vorax demands your immediate surrender. Resist, and we will demonstrate why the Zoraxian Empire rules 47 worlds." Admiral Rachel Monroe smiled. Not the fearful or submissive expression Vorax expected, but something else entirely. 47 worlds. How impressive. "Tell me, Captain, how many of those worlds had Titans?" Before Captain Drogar could respond, alarms blared across the Stellar Vanguard's bridge. Admiral Thalix's voice carried genuine alarm. "Multiple underground facilities activating worldwide. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." "Impossible," Vorax snarled, rising from his chair. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. Scan again." On the surface, Admiral Rachel Monroe was still smiling. Captain Drogar, your Admiral's invasion force is impressive, truly. But humanity learned long ago that the best defense isn't always the most visible one." She checked her watch. "Now, if you will excuse me, I believe the Titans are about to make their entrance." The ground began to tremble, not just in New York, but at 12 locations across the planet. Vorax watched in disbelief as his tactical display lit up with warnings. Massive doors were opening in what his scouts had dismissed as natural mountain ranges and ocean floors. "Get our troops back to the ships," Vorax roared. "Launch fighters, full shields." But it was too late for the diplomatic team. The East River erupted as something enormous rose from its depths. Water cascaded off midnight black armor as a humanoid figure emerged, dwarfing the surrounding skyscrapers. Its head, resembling a stylized samurai helmet, turned to regard the Zoraxian dropships with glowing blue eyes. "By the eternal void," Naira whispered. It's over 300 meters tall." Through the ground team's feeds, they heard Admiral Rachel Monroe final words to Captain Drogar. "Captain, meet Titan Vanguard, humanity's first Titan. Don't worry, you will get to meet his siblings soon enough." Titan Vanguard moved with impossible grace for its size. One massive hand snatched a dropship from the air, like a child catching a butterfly. The other swept through the plaza, carefully avoiding the UN building while scattering the remaining Zoraxian vessels like toys. "All ships, open fire," Vorax commanded, his voice cracking with rage. "Show these primitives the power of our plasma cannons." The sky lit up as the Zoraxian fleet unleashed its weaponry. Energy beams capable of cutting through planetary crusts struck Titan Vanguard's armor and dissipated harmlessly. The Titan turned its gaze skyward, and Vorax felt a chill as those blue eyes seemed to look directly at him through the vacuum of space. Admiral Strategist Malor reported, his usual confidence shaken. "We are detecting similar signatures rising from the Mariana Trench, Mount Kilimanjaro, the Andes Mountains, and they are all moving to engage our forces." Vorax gripped his command chair, all four eyes fixed on the tactical display as more giants emerged across the planet. Each one unique, each one impossible, and each one turning the might of his invasion force into a collection of very worried targets. "Lieutenant Naira," he said quietly, "I believe we may have made a tactical error." Titan Vanguard proved his point by launching the captured dropship into low orbit like a fastball, forcing the stellar Vanguard to take evasive action. The conquest of Earth, Vorax X realized, was not going to be added to his list of victories. In fact, he was starting to wonder if he would survive to compile any future lists at all. Admiral Vorax paced the bridge of the stellar Vanguard, his claws leaving slight scratches near the metallic floor. The tactical hologram showed a nightmare unfolding across Earth's surface. Not just Titan Vanguard and New York, but 11 more Titans were now emerging from their hidden sanctuaries. "Admiral, receiving visual confirmation of additional installations," Lieutenant Naira reported, her voice trembling. "Siberian facility emerging from beneath the permafrost, Antarctic base rising through the ice shelf, Saharan complex surfacing from the dunes." The holographic display updated with each report, showing massive structures that had been perfectly concealed from their most advanced scanners. These weren't hastily built bunkers or simple underground hangars. These were fully operational manufacturing and launch facilities that must have taken decades, if not centuries, to construct. "Send me visual feeds from all primary locations," Vorax demanded. "I want to see what we are truly facing." The bridge's main screen split into multiple views, each one more extraordinary than the last. From the Sahara, a Titan, designated as Sand Sentinel, emerged, its bronze armor decorated with hieroglyphic patterns that seemed to shift and move in the sunlight. Sand cascaded from its shoulders as it rose to its full height, matching Titan Vanguard's impressive scale. In Antarctica, the ice parted to reveal Solaris Core, a Titan whose silver-white armor reflected the polar light like a mirror. Steam rose from every joint as it powered up, suggesting an internal temperature that could rival a small sun. "Fascinating design variations," strategist Malor noted, professional curiosity momentarily overcoming his fear. Each Titan appears adapted to its environment. The Siberian unit, designation Cryo-Fist, shows extreme cold resistance. The Mariana Trench unit, Abyss Monarch, displays pressure adaptation that shouldn't be possible with known materials. Vorax X slammed his fist on a nearby console. Stop admiring them and find me a weakness. Where are they being controlled from? What powers them? How did we miss this level of technology? A new alert sounded, and Naira's scales paled to an almost white shade. Admiral, we found their central command. You need to see this. And the main screen shifted to a location in the Rocky Mountains. What they had assumed was a natural formation was transforming before their eyes. The entire mountain face split apart, revealing a facility that defied comprehension. Massive hangar doors opened like blooming flower petals, each large enough to house 3 Zoraxian capital ships. By the void, Vorax whispered. It's not just a base, it's a Titan forge, Malor finished. The humans have been building these weapons for generations, right under everyone's noses. Within the facility, they could see more Titans in various stages of completion. Robotic assembly arms the size of battleships moved with precision, attaching armor plates and installing power cores that glowed with an energy signature their sensors couldn't identify. Admiral Rachel Monroe's voice came through on all frequencies, calm and composed as ever. Admiral Vorax X, I believe it's time we had a proper discussion about humanity's defensive capabilities. The Rocky Mountain Forge you are observing is one of 3 such facilities on Earth. Would you like me to show you the others? 3, Naira exclaimed. Impossible. The resources required, the technological advancement. Oh, that's not the impressive part. Rachel continued, as if discussing the weather. The impressive part is that we built all of this while making you believe we were still fighting over fossil fuels and arguing about social media. Did you really think a species that survived multiple extinction events, developed nuclear power, and reached their moon with primitive rockets would just stop advancing? The mountain facility hummed with increasing power. Something was emerging from its depths, something larger than any Titan they had seen so far. The tactical display struggled to map its dimensions. Admiral Strategist Malor reported, his voice barely a whisper. The energy readings from that facility, they match our entire fleet's output combined. Rachel's voice carried a hint of pride. Admiral, I had like you to meet the Guardian of North America, Terra Rex. He's been sleeping since we completed him during your species' equivalent of our Bronze Age. Consider this his alarm clock. Terra Rex rose from its lair, its armor a patchwork of rocky plates that made it look like a mobile mountain. Its head bore a crown-like structure of sharp peaks, and its eyes glowed with the same mysterious energy they had detected in the forge. When it moved, the ground shook so violently that their sensors registered seismic activity across the continent. 60% of our dropships have been neutralized, Naira reported mechanically, as if reading a death sentence. The Titans are not just defensive units. They are showing coordinated tactical movements. They are herding our force away from population centers while systematically eliminating our ability to retreat. Vorax X watched as Terra Rex raised an arm the size of a space elevator. Energy coursed through channels in its armor, collecting in its palm. All ships, evasive action, he roared, but he already knew it was too late. The beam that erupted from Terra Rex's hand wasn't plasma, wasn't any weapon the Zoraxians had encountered in their centuries of conquest. It cut through space like a blade through paper, splitting 3 heavy cruisers into perfect halves before dissipating. Remarkable, isn't it? Rachel commented. We call it the divide light. The physics behind it gave our scientists headaches for centuries. I won't bore you with the details, but let's just say it has something to do with separating the forces that hold matter together. Titan Vanguard and Abyss Monarch were now moving to flank the Zoraxian fleet. Sand Sentinel had already disabled their ground forces in Africa. Solaris Core was systematically freezing their ships in the southern hemisphere, coating them in a substance that their engines couldn't melt. "Your next move is very important," Admiral Rachel said, her tone becoming serious for the first time. Terra Rex was designed as a last resort. Unlike his siblings, he doesn't know the meaning of restraint. So before he decides to demonstrate why we kept him hidden for so long, perhaps we should discuss terms. Vorax stared at the tactical display, watching as humanity's ultimate weapons moved into position around his once mighty fleet. Everything he thought he knew about this primitive world had been a carefully crafted illusion. They hadn't just been preparing for invasion, they had been waiting for it, baiting it. And now, the trap had sprung. Admiral Vorax had never lost a battle in 3 centuries of warfare, but he was losing this one badly. The stellar Vanguard shuddered as another energy blast from Terra Rex passed dangerously close to their port side. "Status report," he demanded, gripping his command chair as the artificial gravity fluctuated. Commander Thalix worked frantically at her station, her scales now a sickly gray color. 93 ships lost or disabled. The Titans are not just powerful, they are smart. They're smart. They are using our own formations against us. On the tactical display, Vorax watched Abyss Monarch demonstrate this point. The massive aquatic Titan burst from the Pacific, water spraying from its blue-green armor. It grabbed 2 Zoraxian destroyers that had been maintaining a standard defensive pattern, smashed them together like cymbals, then disappeared beneath the waves before their escorts could respond. "We still have numerical superiority," strategist Malor insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. "If we concentrate our remaining forces, perhaps a focused assault on a single target." "Look," Thalix interrupted, pointing at a new alert. The African continent, Sand Sentinel, had revealed a new capability. The hieroglyphs on its bronze armor were glowing with increasing intensity. As they watched, the desert itself began to move. Millions of tons of sand rose into the air, forming a massive storm that engulfed their ground forces. "Fascinating," Malor muttered. "They have given each Titan control over its environmental domain. The sand isn't just obscuring our vision, it's getting into our engines, our weapons, our—" "Save the analysis for later," Vorax snapped. "Order all ships to maintain high altitude, stay above the sand's reach." But the humans had anticipated this strategy. As the Zoraxian ships rose, Titan Vanguard launched himself into the air using some form of gravitational manipulation. The Titan literally surfed up the side of a skyscraper, pushed off near the top, and grabbed the nearest capital ship in a wrestling hold. "How?" Vorax X demanded. "How are they coordinating these attacks so perfectly?" Admiral Rachel Monroe answered him, her voice coming through their command channel. "You are not the only ones who can network a battle fleet, Admiral. Would you like to meet our combat AI?" She's been eager to introduce herself. A new voice filled the bridge, feminine, but clearly artificial. "Greetings, Admiral Vorax X. I am Orion, Advanced Response Intelligence Algorithm. I have been studying your tactical patterns since you entered the solar system. Would you like to know your success probability against my Titans? I calculated at approximately 0.0034%. Vorax X snarled in frustration. The humans hadn't just built giant war machines. They had created an AI sophisticated enough to conduct warfare on a planetary scale, and they had hidden all of it behind a facade of reality television and social media disputes. "Sir," Thalix called out, "Cryofist and Solaris Core are moving to cut off our retreat path. They are working together." Indeed, the two Titans had developed a devastating combination attack. Cryofist would blast ships with extreme cold, creating brittle points in their hull armor. Solaris Core would follow up with precise heat beams, causing the dramatic temperature change to shatter the weakened sections. "Launch our reserve fighters," Vorax ordered. "All of them." 10,000 Zoraxian strike craft poured from the surviving capital ships, filling Earth's orbit with swarms of deadly fighters. For a moment it seemed like this might turn the tide. The Titans were large targets, after all. Then Terra Rex revealed why it was considered the most dangerous of Earth's defenders. The crown-like structure on its head began to rotate, each peak glowing with building energy. A gravitational field expanded outward, catching the fighter swarm in its grip. With a gesture that seemed almost casual, Terra Rex compressed the entire field. 10,000 ships were crushed into a ball the size of a small asteroid, Admiral Aria announced, her tone almost sympathetic. "Titan Vanguard has breached the Stellar Vanguard's outer hull. Shall I list the 13 ways he could disable your ship without causing fatalities? I believe you would find option 7 particularly interesting." As if to emphasize her point, Titan Vanguard's massive hand punched through the bridge's armored ceiling. The Titan's glowing blue eyes peered in at them, and Vorax X could have sworn it winked. "Strategist Malor," Vorax said quietly, "remind me what our intelligence report said about human technology levels." Miller checked his datapad out of habit. Primitive chemical rockets, basic AI assistance, limited orbital capabilities, no energy weapons, no artificial gravity, no... He was interrupted by Abyss Monarch launching itself completely out of the Pacific Ocean, arcing over Japan like a missile. It crashed into a cluster of Zoraxian ships, its armor somehow channeling the kinetic energy of its own impact into a shockwave that disabled their shields. "I think," Vorax said dryly, "we may need to update those reports." Rachel's voice returned. "Admiral, perhaps this would be a good time to mention that Terra Rex is about to demonstrate its primary weapon system. Aria has named it the Continental Divider. Would you like to surrender before or after you see what it does to the moon's surface?" The rocky Titan was indeed moving into a firing stance, its entire body crackling with energy that their sensors couldn't even classify. The crown structure was spinning faster now, and the gravitational distortions were becoming visible to the naked eye. "You wouldn't," Vorax protested. "The debris alone would." "Aria has already calculated the debris patterns," Rachel interrupted. "The Titans will catch any dangerous pieces. We have practiced this maneuver 16 times in simulations. Would you like to see it performed live?" Sand Sentinel had finished with the ground forces and was now creating a sandstorm in the upper atmosphere, trapping more ships in a three-dimensional web of artificially controlled particles. Cryofist and Solaris Core had developed a rhythm, methodically destroying ship after ship with their thermal attack pattern. Titan Vanguard was literally juggling 3 destroyers while hanging onto the Stellar Vanguard. Admiral Thalix reported, her voice barely a whisper, "I'm detecting another energy surge from the Rocky Mountain Forge. Something else is emerging, something bigger than Terra Rex." Vorax closed all 4 eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was remarkably steady. "Commander Thalix, Please send the following message to all surviving ships. The Zoraxian Empire formally requests a cessation of hostilities with the people of Earth. A wise choice, Arya commented. I was about to suggest that option. Would you like me to halt Terra Rex's weapon charge? Or would you prefer to see what it does to that small moon of yours? For scientific purposes, of course. Before Vorax could respond, Titan Vanguard released its grip on the Stellar Vanguard and gave them a formal military salute. The gesture was so unexpected, so absurd given the circumstances, that Vorax found himself returning it automatically. "Welcome to Earth," Admiral Rachel said warmly. "Now, shall we discuss those terms? I believe you will find we can be quite reasonable when we are not being invaded." Admiral Vorax stood on the observation deck of the Stellar Vanguard, watching his remaining ships limp toward Jupiter's orbit. The retreat had been ordered, but something felt wrong. The Titans had stopped their pursuit at Mars, taking up defensive positions around the red planet. "Admiral," Lieutenant Naira called out, her scales now a deep purple of exhaustion. "Long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity near Jupiter's moon, Europa." Strategist Malor analyzed the readings, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. That cannot be correct. The ice sheet on Europa is breaking apart. The entire moon is. The surface of Europa shattered like a glass ornament. From within the icy moon, a structure rose that dwarfed even Terra Rex. It was a space station. No, a shipyard that had been hidden inside the moon itself. "Receiving transmission from the Europa facility," Naira announced, her voice trembling. Admiral Rachel Monroe appeared on their main screen, but this time she stood in what was clearly an advanced command center. Behind her, holographic displays showed the positions of every ship in the solar system. "Admiral Krax," she said pleasantly, "I believe it's time we showed you why we let your fleet retreat this far. Arya, would you do the honors?" The AI's voice resonated through their communication systems. "Activating Jupiter Defense Grid, launching Solar Guard Units 1 through 12 from the Europa facility." 12 new Titans emerged. Unlike their planetary counterparts, these were sleeker, built for space warfare. Their armor gleamed with a material that seemed to absorb light itself. "Beautiful, aren't they?" Rachel asked. "The Solar Guard has been waiting here since we detected your Empire's expansion pattern 50 years ago. They are rather excited to finally see some action." The spaceborne Titans moved with impossible grace in the zero-gravity environment. They carried weapons that made Terra Rex's arsenal look primitive by comparison. "You hid them in Europa," Krax said, understanding dawning in all four eyes. "You hid an entire space fleet inside a moon." "Oh, that's not the clever part," Rachel replied. "The clever part is what we hid in Ganymede." On cue, Jupiter's largest moon began to transform. Its entire surface was revealed to be a massive hangar door. As it opened, a ship emerged that caused every Zoraxian on the bridge to step backward in awe. Admiral Arya announced, "Please meet the USS Celestial Resolve, the first of our Titan-class carriers. Would you like a tour? The observation deck has an excellent view of your fleet's current position." The human vessel was beyond anything in Vorax's experience. It made his flagship look like a child's toy. Its hull was covered in the same light-absorbing material as the Solar Guard Titans, and energy readings suggested power levels that shouldn't be possible. "The Celestial Resolve has been waiting here for 3 centuries, Rachel explained, each generation adding improvements, preparing for the day we would need to defend not just Earth, but our entire solar system. Today seems like a good day to take it for a test flight, don't you think?" The carrier's weapon systems came online, targeting solutions appearing instantly for every surviving Zoraxian ship. The Solar Guard Titans took up formation around it, their own weapons humming with power. Lieutenant Naira Krax said quietly, "What are our odds of reaching FTL speed before they fire?" 0.0%. Admiral Arya answered for them. "I have already plotted 37 different escape routes you might consider. I have counters prepared for each one. Would you like me to demonstrate?" One of the Solar Guard Titans raised its arm. A beam of concentrated energy sliced through space, cutting off their fastest escape route with a barrier of pure force. "That was just a warning shot," Rachel noted. "The next one won't miss." "Now, Admiral Krax, I have a question for you. What do you think the Zoraxian Empire will do when they learn that the primitive planet they tried to conquer had not only planetary titans, but an entire space fleet hidden in the outer solar system?" Vorax's mind raced through the implications. His empire had conquered 47 worlds by being the most technologically advanced species they encountered. But these humans, they had not only matched Zoraxian technology, they had surpassed it, and they had done it in secret. "The Celestial Resolve is sending targeting data," Naira reported mechanically. "They have solutions for every ship, even the ones behind Jupiter." "A final choice," Admiral Rachel announced. "You can turn your fleet around and head home with a message for your empire. Or you can witness why we named our first carrier Celestial Resolve rather than humanity's mercy." The Solar Guard Titans had completed their encirclement. The Celestial Resolve loomed before them like a metal planet, its weapons arrays glowing with contained power. Behind them, Jupiter's massive form blocked their retreat. Krax looked at his tactical display one last time, then he straightened his uniform, raised his head, and made the only choice he could. "This is Admiral Krax of the Zoraxian Empire," he announced on all frequencies. "To all ships, plot a course back to the home world. We will inform the Empire that the Sol system is not available for conquest." "A pleasure negotiating with you," Admiral Rachel said, and this time her smile seemed genuine. "Arya, please provide their navigation systems with a safe route out of the solar system. And Admiral, do tell your Empire that Earth looks forward to establishing diplomatic relations on equal terms, of course, as the Zoraxian fleet began its long journey home." Krax watched the Solar Guard Titans return to their stations. The Celestial Resolve disappeared back into Ganymede's hollow interior. He couldn't help but wonder what other secrets these humans had hidden among the stars. Perhaps, he thought, it was best not to find out. 6 hours later, as the stellar vanguard passed Neptune's orbit, Admiral Krax recorded his final log entry about Earth. Command log, Zoraxian date 47392. He spoke, watching the blue planet shrink to a mere dot in the distance. "Today marks a profound shift in our understanding of the galaxy. We came to Earth expecting to find primitives. Instead, we found masters of deception who had turned their entire solar system into an elaborate trap." Lieutenant Naira entered his private chamber carrying a data packet that had just arrived from Earth. "Admiral, the humans sent us specifications for a new communication array. They say it will help us stay in touch across interstellar distances." Krax laughed, the sound carrying equal parts amusement and respect. "Of course they did. Probably been sitting on that technology for centuries, too." He took the packet, noting the elegant design. "Add it to the growing list of things we were wrong about." Through his viewport, he could see his battered fleet in formation. Many ships bore the marks of their encounter with the Titans. Some had handprints the size of small cities pressed into their hulls. Others showed the effects of Solaris cores' heat beams or Frost Hammer's ice attacks.
You know what amazes me most?
Lieutenant Krax mused. Not their titans, not their hidden fleets, not even their AI. It's their patience. They waited centuries, building their defenses, all while pretending to be barely space-capable. The perfect strategy, Naira agreed, her scales shifting to a thoughtful blue. No one tries to steal technology from a primitive world. The data packet contained one final message from Admiral Rachel Monroe, Admiral. Arya calculated a 98.2% chance you would appreciate some light reading for your journey home. Attached is a brief history of Earth's defense program. The section about what we hid in Saturn's rings are particularly entertaining. Safe travels. Krax shook his head in wonder. Send a response, Lieutenant. Tell them... He paused, considering his words carefully. Tell them the Zoraxian Empire looks forward to establishing a mutually beneficial relationship with Earth. And add a personal note. Tell Admiral Rachel Monroe she plays a far better game of deception than I do. As his words were transmitted toward Earth, Krax settled into his command chair and opened the historical document. The first page showed an image of humans building the Titans, dated centuries before his species had achieved spaceflight. One final log note, he added, future recommendation for all Zoraxian exploration fleets. When a species seems primitive, look closer. They might just be better at hiding than we are at seeking. The Stellar Vanguard's engines hummed as they prepared for the long journey home. Behind them, Earth's defenders returned to their hidden stations, ready to protect their world from the next would-be conqueror. And in the Rocky Mountain Forge, Terra Rex's eyes dimmed as it entered standby mode, its mission complete, at least until the next invasion fleet made the mistake of underestimating humanity.